I have with me Dave Muscato of American Atheist, and Dave is behind the picture of an American Atheist sign in Times Square there in New York, and it says, "Who need Christ during Christmas?" Who need Christ during Christmas? Cross out Christ with an X, and it says, nobody. Nobody need Christ. I saw Dave, I believe, on Bill O'Reilly, Fox News show there, even though he was being interviewed by a different host. Bill was out, and I wanted to talk to Dave. Dave, good morning, sir. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. Dave, let me ask, have you always been an atheist?
No, actually, I used to be a professional worship musician before I became an atheist.
Really? And what caused the change in you? So you were a Christian at one point. What caused the change in you? Why did you change?
Learning more about Christianity, actually, at one point I decided I wanted to take my religion more seriously. I had never read the Bible cover to cover before, so I did that. And then I read a different translation cover to cover, and then I decided if I really wanted to know what Jesus taught and what Jesus wanted for me to do and how we were supposed to act and so on, that really the best way for me to do this, just because there are so many translations, would be to learn Latin and Greek so that I could really get to the source of what he was really saying in the way it was originally written. And what I found out, I started working with a tutor, a classics grad student for a couple of years who tutored me twice a week. And in reading this stuff, I started to realize actually pretty quickly off the bat that we don't have the original documents of these, and that the oldest documents that we do have been highly edited, that we don't know who wrote them, that we don't have the originals. They're very, very historically unreliable, and they contradict each other in many different ways. And it just was immediately apparent these are not good historical sources. And the more I looked into it, the more I realized that these are just not, the whole thing is just not accurate. So that took me from being a Christian to just believing in God, but not believing the Bible. And then from there, as I learned more about philosophy and epistemology and statistical probability and things like that, it just became more and more apparent that this wasn't true.
Amazing. When you were a Christian, the idea of believing in God, it did not work for you, right? Nothing got better for you, per se.
Well, when I was a Christian, it definitely did. I was very much, attached to it. But when I started to realize it wasn't true, then it became harder and harder for me to believe it.
Really? So there's nothing within you, within your body, within your spirit that says that there is a God?
Not now. There used to be, I thought, but now I think it was just wishful thinking, and I think that it was just me imagining it.
Wow. Why protest Christ? Your sign on Times Square there, hanging in Times Square, says that who need Christ during Christmas? And a little X crosses out Christ and says nobody. Why protest Christ? Why don't you just move on and be a little atheist and not interrupt with what other people believe?
Well, our message is really that Christmas isn't about Jesus, that anybody can celebrate it any way that they want to. And it's not that we're attacking Christians. Our target audience for this billboard is closeted atheists, people who pretend to be Christian, who go to services with their family, or they drag themselves, or they drag their children even though nobody really wants to go, who go through the motions of it but don't really believe it because they feel societal pressure or family pressure maybe from an older generation that wants them to appear religious. But we want them to know that you don't need Christ in order to have a great holiday. Many, many people in this country, actually 9 out of 10, I just saw a study released last night from Pew Forum, I think it was, 9 out of 10 non-Christians in this country celebrate Christmas too. You don't need Christ to do this, and actually nobody needs Christ. Some people might believe that they need him, but he's a fictional character, and you don't need him to have a great Christmas.
But I've always said that atheists and radical homosexuals or the liberal women who hate men, the National Organization of Women Who Hate Men, that those type of peoples are very insecure in that they can't stand alone. They need to bring everybody out of the closet. And so in doing this, you're doing exactly what the radical homosexuals do to people. There are homosexuals who they know that it's wrong, but they just don't know how to overcome at this point. So they're not proud to be that way. Whereas you have these radical homosexuals who want to flaunt it because they're so insecure, they expose those who don't want to be exposed. And it sounds like due to your insecurities or atheist insecurity, you're trying to do that to the atheists who don't want to be out front with their belief.
I'm not sure what you mean by a radical gay person. I assume that you just mean very upfront about activism and also gay. But
those that are flaunting their homosexuality, just so-called same-sex marriage and, all the crap that they're putting out there now, imposing it on the children in the public school system, those people are very insecure. That's why they're imposing it on the innocents. And it sounds like that's what your intent is with this sign in Times Square.
Have you ever met a gay person?
Yeah, truckloads of them.
I'm confused why you would simultaneously say that they are flaunting this and somehow ashamed and insecure about it. That seems to be a contradiction.
I mean, they don't feel secure in being wrong. They know that homosexuality is wrong within themselves. And so what they're trying to do is force everyone to agree with it so they can feel good about being wrong. And I get the impression that that's the same thing that's happening with the atheists, that there are atheists such as yourself who put up these type of signs because, as you said, you want to encourage other atheists to come to the forefront because you're not comfortable being wrong by yourself.
Well, I don't think I'm wrong, and I think the same is probably true of gay people. I'm sure there are some gay people who, because of guilt that's given to them by religious leaders, and the religious system that forces this idea that there's something wrong with being gay, that they might have a sense of guilt from that. But I don't think the majority of gay people have any feeling that there's something wrong with them or that they're doing something wrong. How do you know that? Have you polled gay people and asked them if they think
I have.
wrong?
I've counseled with them for years. But
I'm talking about an actual poll. I'm not talking about you talking to religious people that you know. Of course, those people are going to be biased and say that it's wrong because they're friends of yours.
Religion doesn't make evil feel insecure. Being wrong make evil or homosexuality or atheism or women who hate men. The judgment of that is what causes you to feel insecure, not religion. Religion is only pointing the way to overcome that. It doesn't make you feel insecure. These people naturally feel insecure about being wrong, and they are blaming it on something on the outside when it has nothing to do with the way that they feel.
I don't think that's accurate. I know many gay people who do not feel insecure about being gay. I know literally thousands of atheists who do not feel insecure about being
Dave, let me
atheist.
take a quick break. We'll come back and wind down. Dave, one quick question. How do you know that religion is what causes radical homosexuals and atheists and women who hate men to feel guilty?
Well, first of all, many women, many gay people, and many atheists do not feel guilty about what they feel. And it's actually not religion that does this. It's specifically Christianity and Judaism and the Western Judeo-Christian Islam religions. There are other religions that have no problem with gay people, and gay people who live in societies under those systems do not feel those feelings.
Then why do they blame it on religions then, if it's or their parents or someone else, if they don't say that these things are causing them to feel guilty?
Well, what I'm saying is because this religion that's dominant in this country teaches people that being gay is wrong, teaches people that women are below men, teaches people that being an atheist is wrong. If you are held over from that system,
Dave. That's not true. when we are wrong in life, there's something within us that let us know that we're wrong. And the reason we have the pain is because we know that we're wrong, and then we start to resent ourselves for being wrong, and that's where the guilt comes from. But if we can just see that we're wrong, but not make a judgment of ourselves by being wrong, we can overcome it. And they're not doing that. Because of time, let me ask this. Are you going to put up a sign when the Muslims celebrate Ramadan and the blacks celebrate Kwanzaa, and they're celebrating in the public school system and everywhere? Will you protest them as well?
Well, Christmas is a federal holiday, and that's really the sticking point, is that this is a problem of separation of religion and government. If Ramadan becomes a national holiday, if the government starts putting up Islamic displays in government buildings using taxpayer funds, then absolutely we'll protest that. We have absolutely no problem with Christians celebrating Christmas on their own in any way that they want on private land using their own money. That's completely their right. In fact, that's a right protected by the First Amendment under the Free Exercise Clause, and we very much support the First Amendment. But when you start bringing government into it, when you start having Christmas trees in government buildings, when you close the post office and force all government workers not to work on Christmas, that's imposing your religion on the rest of us, and that's what we'll fight. For the record, we have also put up billboards against Judaism and against Islam.
And so when you protest Islam, do you cross out Muhammad? You put an X over Muhammad's face?
Well, the last one that we put up said, it was in Arabic, actually, and we put it up in a heavily Muslim neighborhood, and it said, it's a myth and you have a choice. I'm not sure what our plan is for the next one. I would prefer to go harder than that as far as being really against Islam, but we're also tempered a little bit by what the billboard companies are willing to put up.
Right. We'll put a cross on Muhammad's face. Let's see what happens.
I'd be happy to if we could find a billboard company that would do that.
So are you saying that if Christmas wasn't a holiday and they celebrated Christmas in the public square, government, schools, and everywhere else, as long as they didn't call it a holiday, you would be fine with that?
As long as the government wasn't involved, yes, absolutely. In exactly the same way that we have no problem at all with Christians celebrating Easter on their own, or celebrating, Good Friday on their own, or celebrating Ash Wednesday on their own, or any of their other holidays. The problem is when government gets involved. Our chief mission is keeping government and religion separate. We don't want a theocracy. We have no problem at all, and celebrate individual people celebrating their religious holidays and practicing their religions on their own. Just keep government out of it.
When you were a Christian, did you have love and compassion for others?
Sure, and I still do now.
And once you became an atheist, you lost that, because if you had love and compassion for others, you would leave the Christians alone and allow them to celebrate Christ and Christmas in any form or manner that they want. And if you don't want to take,
stopping people from celebrating Christmas in any form and manner that they want.
If you don't want to take the holiday, you and other insecure atheists didn't want to take the holiday vacation or whatever, you can go to work. No one is forcing you not to go to work.
If I work for the government, I don't. But if I did, I would not be able to go to work. And that's my point. The government shuts down on Christmas Day because it's a federal holiday. And that's wrong. The government should not be recognizing a religious holiday in that way, because we don't have a religious government. We have a secular government. In fact, it's specifically in the First Amendment that the government cannot promote or aid a religion in that way. And that's exactly what it's doing. It's endorsing Christianity by saying we're shutting down on this day in honor of Christianity.
But
you
how
don't do
is
that, for Hanukkah.
Well, how is this sign that you put up there in Times Square, what does that have to do with the government? Look like you would have a sign of Obama or somebody up there protesting them rather than Christ. Christ didn't do this.
Well, like I said, that billboard that we're talking about is targeted toward closeted atheists. And our message
to them... put a sign of a closeted atheist and say, hey, come out of the closet. Don't attack Christ.
Well,
and show your love and compassion. Show your love and compassion for those who do believe in Christ.
That's not our target audience for this. We're not trying to speak to actual Christians. We're speaking to people who pretend to be Christians who are actually
need
atheists.
Christ with an X in his face? It says,
Right.
with an X saying nobody, that's attacking Christ and every Christian that believes in Christ.
We're saying very clearly that you don't need Jesus to have a great Christmas. And actually, I don't know if you have this up on your screen,
Yes.
just because I'm over the phone, but it's actually an animated billboard, and there are three 5-second parts of this. The first part is the part that says, "Who needs Christ during Christmas? Nobody." But the second part and the third part continue on to say, "Celebrate the true meaning of Xmas," and it has all of these wonderful things: charity, family, food, friends, cocoa. All sorts of things that are associated with Christmas that you can celebrate without anything to do with religion. And
But
then
you're
the third
not being
panel says
honest in your
holiday.
dialogue with me right now because you are attacking Christ. Who need Christ? You don't say, come out of the closet. You don't have an image of a person or people behind closed doors who are atheists and want to come out. Who need Christ? And you say nobody with an X there, then you're attacking Christ. That has nothing to do with the atheist. Why don't you make the point, hey, all atheists that are hidden in the closet, come out. You don't have to hide. Then your message would be clearer.
Well, I think our message is pretty clear as it is. We're telling people, many people believe that you have to have Christ in order to have a good Christmas. In fact, on Fox News and other conservative media, they have explicitly said this, that it's not Christmas without Christ. We have to keep the Christ in Christmas, all that stuff. What we're saying is, no, that's not true. You can have a great Christmas without Christ.
But you can't.
In fact,
Christmas is about Christ. If it wasn't about Christ,
you think that, but if
it wasn't about Christ, there would be no Christmas.
That's not true, actually.
How about
Christmas?
Christmas.
It's just the name. It's like Valentine's Day. Nobody celebrates Valentine's Day as a holiday about a Catholic saint. It's a holiday about romance.
No.
It was just because it was named after that doesn't mean that that's what it's about. Only half of people even go to church on Christmas anymore. It's not.
But that still doesn't take
holiday.
away. It still doesn't take from the reality that it's about Christ. Even though you may not I don't get up early in the morning and go to church either. I wasn't brought up that way, but I still recognize Christmas Day as celebrating Christ's birthday and showing my appreciation for him. We're talking about Christ and Christmas here. There is a white cross on the top of a hill which can be seen on the 5 South Freeway going toward San Diego, California, here from Los Angeles to San Diego. And it's been there since 1913 in honor of veterans. And the Atheist sued, and it's being taken down because it's on federal land. That is an amazing thing. The birth of Jesus has been celebrated since 354 A.D. And that's about 1,700 years of honoring Christ. And Dave says that it has nothing to do with Christ. Dave Muscato is my guest, an American atheist. He's one of the people who are behind the sign there in Times Square. Amazing. Dave is with me. Dave, what's your website for the folks?
It's atheists.org, atheists.org. We're a membership organization, so if you're an atheist, I highly encourage you to join. There's all sorts of information about atheism on our site if you're curious about what atheists believe and why we believe what we do. We're also on Twitter and Facebook and so on.
Do you want them to remove the cross from the Red Cross organization as well?
From the Red Cross organization?
Yes.
If it's not a symbol for Christianity, then no. It's not a Latin cross, that is, with the longer bottom part. It's just it's a plus sign, which is an international symbol for medical care.
If there was never a Jesus, would there be a Christmas? Would there have been a Christmas? If there was not a Jesus Christ, would there have been a Christmas?
There was actually Christmas before Jesus. It just wasn't called Christmas. There was a Roman holiday called Saturnalia that coincidentally occurred on December 25th. And when Jesus entered the picture, and when Constantine converted to Christianity and made it the official religion of Rome, the Catholic Church moved his celebration day, his birthday, to coincide with the Saturnalia holiday in order to make it easier for pagans, that is Romans, who were accustomed to celebrating every December 25th to continue their tradition of celebrating that. I mean, it would be like, say there was, a new government religion that said, we're getting rid of birthdays. Nobody can have a birthday anymore. People would do it anyway. They would say, no, we've been doing this all our lives. We love doing it. We're not going to stop. But if the government said, okay, fine, in this new state religion, you can still have your birthday, but we're going to call it Life Day instead, then everybody would be much happier about that. That's exactly what the Romans did. That holiday was already around. It had been around for a very long time.
But the point, though, is before Jesus Christ, it wasn't called Christmas. After Jesus Christ, it was called Christmas.
Yeah,
and it's spread over the last, about 1,600 years. So it's because of that it's called Christmas. Let me squeeze in a few calls here for you, Dave. 888-77, Jesse. Let's go to Los Angeles, talk to the Bible Go-To Guy. Bible Go-To Guy, you're on with Dave.
Yeah, 2 quick points. Thank you, Jesse. Hi, Dave.
Hello.
2 quick points. First of all, George Washington himself acknowledged that all governments should give homage to the God, their Savior, and many other writings and things he say confirming that, as did a lot of our other founding fathers. So this thing about separation of church and state is a total lie. And here's why you don't want to separate church and state. Because people tend to go toward excuses, and God is about principles that don't change with time, and so there's no excuses. And peoples and governments that get away from that, get away from God as their foundation and the one they have to answer to, they start to tend toward the same kind of thinking that your guest, Dave, is saying. Socialism and atheism, they go hand in hand, and, homosexuality and abortion, all the excuses that come from men who no longer have to answer to a God.
Let's get a response from Dave. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I would say a couple things. I'm not a socialist, and I don't think that they necessarily go hand in hand.
Oh, you will be in time. In time, it goes.
Hold on. Hold on, Bible Go-To Guy.
I let you speak.
Yeah, hold on. Go ahead, sir.
I mean, there are just a couple of things wrong with what you were saying. I'm trying to remember the points that you were making here. Could you really quickly reiterate what you were saying?
Yes, that all peoples and governments tend to devolve into chaos, just like the Roman Empire did when they lose their gods, and the basis of their strength is the belief that there is a punishment beyond what they do.
Okay. If what you're saying is true, that the health of governments is dependent on belief in God, why is it that the healthiest... Right, but listen to this, though. The most healthy societies on earth, the ones with the highest standards of living, the ones with the highest per capita income, the highest average lifespan, the lowest infant mortality, the lowest abortion rates, the lowest divorce rates, the lowest murder rates, all of this are the countries with the least religion. Scandinavia, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, places like that. The places with the highest murder rates, the places with the most government corruption, the places with the most, everything bad that we don't like are places like Liberia, are places like Chad, Niger, places like Somalia, places that have 100% religion. People where there are no atheists.
That's all false. Those countries
That's
are
absolutely true. The WHO publishes statistics on this sort of thing.
Go ahead, Bob. Let me get the Bible Go-To Guy. Go ahead, sir.
Right. Those things are false. So all these people, there's like, what's that one city, Denmark? It's they got this one park where everybody can go and do their little drugs. They're gone, and their people have no courage.
Are you talking about Amsterdam?
It's a mess. Yes. It's a mess. Europe's a mess and getting worse because of their turning away from God. And the same with America. America used to be the shining city on the hill where
Oh, you
crime.
mean when America had slavery and when women couldn't vote?
Yes.
Is that what you mean? That was the shining city on the hill? Are you kidding me?
I'll take that shining city on the hill compared to today. I'll take that day.
Because you're a bigot? Are you serious? You want slavery and women not to be able to vote?
No, but I'll
better?
take that set. I'll take that set of fault and virtue over this set that we have today any day of the week. And
well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you move to Saudi Arabia then, and you can go where women aren't allowed to vote, and you can go where this stuff is legal.
Russia or China, and you can
Thank
be
you,
an atheist all you want.
Thank you, Barbara. Go to guy. Dave, let me ask. Once upon a time, Christ was taught in the public school system and in government. And for the most part, the kids had a sense of what's right. They respected the elderly. Abortion and homosexuality and all this garbage were not out of control. They removed Christ from the public school system. They removed Christ from the government. And now, not all, but most of the public schools are out of control, morally bankrupt. And in government, you can't believe the government at all now, either side. We now have a lying president in the White House like never before in the history of America. Not that other presidents haven't lied, but not to this extreme. Have you noticed that anytime you move Christ away from your life, it allows hell to come in and take over?
No, I disagree with that. And I mean, as somebody who's, for one thing, pro-choice, for somebody who's pro-woman and pro-marriage equality and so on, I don't see the things that you listed as negative or morally bankrupt or anything like that. It was actually our organization in 1963 that went to the Supreme Court to have to tackle the issue of forcing children to do Bible readings and to recite prayers, Christian prayer in public schools. And the Supreme Court ruled in Murray versus Curlett that that's unconstitutional, that violates separation of religion and government, forcing children, whether they're Christian or not, to recite Christian prayers.
Are you proud of yourself for doing that, removing God from children? Are you proud of that?
It's not removing God from children. I mean, let's be clear here. It's taking religion, forced religion, out of public school classrooms. If parents want their children to have a religious education, they absolutely have the choice of sending them to a religious school.
But they pay taxes.
Schools, they don't have that right.
They pay taxes for the public education as well. Why can't they send their children to a public school? And if you don't want your children or child learning and praying and knowing about God, remove your kids from the school.
I don't know why we have it set up this way, but I do know that it's inappropriate and unconstitutional for schools to teach all children, regardless of their religion, about to follow in religion or force to follow in religion. I mean, imagine if you had an Islamic teacher, a Muslim teacher, who was forcing children to recite Arabic prayers praising Muhammad.
It's coming.
If you had a Christian child, you would not want that.
Well, give me a quick yes or no, and I want to go back to the phones because of time. In California and other states in the public school system, as a result of moving Christ away from the public school system, you now have boys and girls who are confused about their sexual identity or their gender. Now the boys can go into the girl bathrooms and showers, and the girls can do the same with the boys. Are you okay with that? Is that a good idea?
I think that's a complicated question. It's misstated as confusion for one thing.
Isn't it a good idea real fast?
I don't know. I think we'll see how this plays out.
Let's go to Greg out of Utah. Greg, welcome to the show. You're on with Dave.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse.
Yes,
you need to. You may have seen it before, but you need to have your guest back on again after you view a video by Wall Builders called "Our Godly Heritage." It shows the statistics of crime, teenage pregnancy, drug use, coinciding with 1963, and it will blow your mind how things have fallen, including the grades and everything. Suicides. I mean, they have all the statistics there, and there's no argument about it. So is it a good thing? Absolutely not. His billboard is completely false, and it just tears the whole floor from underneath his claim.
And Dave, how do you respond to that? I agree with Greg, because whenever you move Christ from your life, evil come forth. We now have homosexuality, same-sex marriage, the National Organization of Women Who Hate Men, abortion, marriages, divorce. I mean, just falling apart. Families are falling apart. Do you agree with what Greg is saying there?
Atheists get divorced less than Christians. Atheists have fewer abortions than Christians. I think this is extremely hypocritical for you to say that because we have less Christianity in our country now than we used to, that things are worse. For atheists, things are better. If more people were logical and rational and did the right thing, it doesn't matter whether you have religion or not. That's what we need to do. And what you're talking about, that things got worse in the 60s, that's correlation and causation that you're confusing. A lot of things happened in the 60s that changed how things worked. That doesn't necessarily mean it was because of Christianity. That was also,
Disagree, because your statements are completely false. Everything coincides with that date. I mean, it's just so uncanny. It's just, there's just no argument.
Welcome to your opinion. You're welcome to your opinion.
That and get all the statistics from wall builders, and then you can put it back in this guy's face and expose him for who he is.
Thank you, Greg. Somebody's phone is ringing there. Dave, thank you so much. I do want you to consider what you are doing, because you were a Christian at one point, and at some point it seemed as though you believed in God, and it sounded as though because it didn't work for you, you've turned against God.
No, it's not because it didn't work for me.
Toward evil. Let me just finish the point.
Incorrect.
Let me finish the point. I'll let you respond. And you've turned toward evil, and now you're pointing others toward evil. I would consider my steps if I were you. Go ahead.
It's not that it didn't work for me. It's that it's incorrect. It's that it's actually the fact there are not facts.
But if it had worked, you would still be there. Now you've turned away from God, and you're doing the work of evil by turning other people away from God. I believe that in life you reap what you sow, and I would consider what I'm doing here while you have a chance to repent if I were you.
Well, if I wanted to be preached, I would go to a church where they're actually good at it. But I don't think what I'm doing is evil. I agree with what I'm doing, or I wouldn't be doing it.
But you're agreeing with evil, though.
According to you, according to me, I agree with what's right. I think that what you're doing is wrong. I think that what you're doing is bigoted, discriminatory, and hateful.
What have I done? What am I doing?
You are tearing apart gay people. You are saying that women are
I'm only talking
men.
about the radical homosexuals who have accepted evil as good. There are homosexuals who know that something is wrong, and they want to overcome it.
But it's not wrong. That's exactly my point. You think that you can dictate to the rest of the world what's right and what's wrong.
But that's what you're doing.
You're
trying to dictate to the world what's right and what's wrong.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that people should
If you were
study
not
ethics
trying to dictate what's right, what's wrong, you would leave Christ in Christmas.
I'm not taking Christ out of Christmas. I'm saying that you don't need Christ to have a great Christmas. Nobody does.
I know, but you
might
would
believe
not.
That you do, but you don't.
You would not be attacking the Christians if you didn't believe what you were doing.
I want to be very clear. I'm not attacking Christians.
But you are. When you attack Christ, you're attacking the Christians. You just won't admit it.
You need to learn to separate your identity as a Christian from the beliefs that you have as a Christian. Beliefs are open to criticism. I am completely allowed to criticize what you believe.
And so am I. And I can do it with love.
Yeah.
I can criticize what you...
That's fine. But don't confuse me attacking what you believe and criticizing what you believe with me attacking you. I'm not attacking you. I respect you as a fellow human being. I wouldn't attack you. But that doesn't mean that your beliefs are immune from criticism.
And Dave, don't compare what I went through and other black people went through during slavery. Don't compare that with homosexuality or women who hate men and all that stuff. It's a put down to black people. They now realize that people who are the children of Satan use them for their own personal gain. You're not showing love toward blacks when you degrade the suffering that they went through based on color, had nothing to do with sex or male or female. You degrade blacks when you do that.
My background is Jewish, and we used to be slaves.
But you still
too.
degrade and blast, though, when you do that.
That may be your opinion, not my intent.
Dave, I appreciate you coming on. Merry Christmas to you, all right?
Happy holidays. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, buddy.